Fran Brown says that nobody is safe on the depth chart. But that being said, if these players perform like we know they're capable of performing, they're going to be atop the depth chart this upcoming season.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts, whether you're watching us on YouTube or you're listening on your favorite audio platform. And on today's show, we are going to discuss the position groups, or the players rather, in those position groups that appear to be quote unquote safe. Obviously, we know head coach Fran Brown, nobody is safe. Those are his words. That being said, if these guys perform, they should be at the top of the depth chart for 2025. We'll talk about those players on special teams, on defense, and on offense. Who are the expected leaders for Syracuse production-wise in 2025? Let's break it all down here on today's show. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Let's start with the offense. The players that myself and probably many of you believe are quote-unquote safe in their roles for this upcoming season. And I want to start by talking about the top two running backs for Syracuse football. The two projected leaders at the running back position, replacing LaQuint Allen from a year ago, are sophomore Yasin Willis and redshirt senior Will Nixon. Barring injury or underperformance in fall camp, these two players are going to lead Syracuse's running back room. And we have discussed this before here on Locked On Syracuse, that I believe that Willis and Nixon complement each other really, really well. Willis is a big kid, 6'1", 225. He's someone that nobody wants to tackle, especially if you're a defensive back and he gets to the outside. I mean, you're a defensive back, maybe you're 6 foot, $180, $190 on a good day. You want to tackle Yasin Willis in the open field? That's right. I didn't think so. He's a big power back for Syracuse football. And I'm hoping, and I'm sure many of you are hoping, he takes a big leap for this 2025 season, because he flashed a little bit as a true freshman, and getting on the field as a true freshman is an accomplishment in of itself. But we would all like to see just a little bit more from Yasin Willis this season. With the power back in Yasin Willis, you also have right behind him, or I guess right next to him rather, is Will Nixon. More experienced running back, someone that has played in a national championship game from Washington, also has a receiver background. He entered college over at Nebraska, so he's transferred twice in college as a receiver. He's a converted wide receiver, now running back. Did that when he was with Washington, though. But having said that, great pass-catching running back, also very slippery as well. It's hard to tackle him just in a different way than Yasin Willis. I believe that those two complement each other really well. And I just can't see, as of right now, any other running back on Syracuse's roster taking one of the top two spots. So again, assuming they play well in fall camp, assuming that they are healthy to start the season, Yasin Willis and Will Nixon are your top two running backs for Syracuse football. And I honestly believe it could be pretty close to a 50-50 split. But comment your thoughts in the comments section below. Who do you think is going to get more carries? Who do you think is going to get more snaps in general between Yasin Willis and Will Nixon? Who do you believe could perhaps usurp those two players on the depth chart? I'd love your thoughts in the comments section below. Let's now move on to the projected number one outside wide receiver for Syracuse football, and that is Daryl Gill. And it's funny because Daryl Gill even though I'm very high on him for this upcoming season, he does have a lot to prove. Last season, he played in 12 games, caught 31 passes, well over 500 yards, had a couple touchdowns as well. Maybe those numbers don't jump off the page immediately, but keep in mind, Darrell Gill last season was the fifth option on the offense, not the fifth wide receiver, the fifth option overall. You had Aronde Gadsden, you had Trevor Pena, you had Jackson Meeks, you had LaQuint Allen, all getting more targets and touches in general than Darrell Gill. But Darrell Gill, especially later in the season, started carving out more of a role. He also led the ACC in yards per catch. I believe that he is going to have a big season. I see it's on the table that he is an all ACC player. In fact, I could see him even taking a leap and being first team all ACC. I think that is certainly on the table for a guy like Darrell Gill. And I believe he is going to be the number one outside wide receiver for Syracuse football. But there are a couple more reasons beyond just him. It's also his competition that he is facing to be the number one outside wide receiver for Syracuse. There's also a guy in Justice Ross Simmons, who I believe could have a big bounce back season for Syracuse football. And a lot of you, I noticed in the comments, believe that he could have a big season as well, which, hey, more weapons for Syracuse, the better. But keep in mind last season, yes, I know Justice Ross Simmons dealt with injuries. I understand it wasn't exactly fair to him. I get it. But keep in mind that he did get healthier towards midseason and towards the end of the season, but Darrell Gill outproduced him. So as of right now, I think Darrell Gill's better than Justice Ross Simmons. And then there's also Jonte Cook, the Texas and Washington transfer that Syracuse brought in this offseason. Looks like he's having a great fall camp. But it also looks like that Syracuse is going to use him in the slot. So when I say Darrell Gill pretty much safe as the number one outside wide receiver, Jonte Cook is not necessarily his competition, because if Syracuse is saying Jonte Cook is going to be the slot receiver, well, the two of them are not competing against each other. Jonte Cook is just simply the starting slot guy replacing Trevor Pena. But hey, comment in the comment section below, do you believe that Darrell Gill will end up being the team's number one outside wide receiver like myself? I love your thoughts in the comment section below. Now let's get to the offensive line. I believe there's only one player on this offensive line right now that seems like he's pretty safe to be a starter. And that is Louisville transfer Austin Collins. And he will probably be the team's starting center. For those that don't know, Austin Collins, he was a guard last year at Louisville. He started 7 games for them. And hey, Louisville is a good team. He started 7 games for that good Louisville team in the ACC. If he could start at Louisville, he can probably start at Syracuse. And I'm not saying that to take a dig at Syracuse. I'm just saying if you could start for another good team in the ACC, you can start at Syracuse as well. He did not allow a sack last season in over 300 pass block attempts. He is actually one of the better pass blocking offensive linemen in the country, but it's countered by the fact that he's not exactly a good run blocker. But hey, at least he's really good in one of the two. He's really good in pass protection, which, hey, Syracuse likes to throw the ball a lot. That's kind of helpful for a team like Syracuse. Austin Collins also has experience playing center. And unfortunately for the Orange, it looked like they were going to use Mark Petrie as their starting center, but he's out for the season with a knee injury. So now if you're looking at Syracuse on their offensive line, well, who's going to be their center? It's probably going to be Austin Collins. And if it's not Collins, at the very least, he is at least going to start along this offensive line. As far as everyone else on the offensive line, we can certainly touch on them when we do a full offensive line preview podcast. But I don't believe anyone else is safe for a job, or at least a starting job, for Syracuse's offensive line. But maybe you feel differently. So comment in the comment section below, who do you think is going to start for Syracuse on the offensive line? I love your thoughts in the comment section below. Now coming up, we just talked about players on offense who I believe are pretty safe in their role. So we're going to talk about the players on defense that feel pretty safe in their role. That's coming up next on Locked On Syracuse. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink minus the alcohol into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or even off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with your friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Let's go over the players on defense where if they perform like we think they're going to perform, then they are going to be at the top of the depth chart come opening day against the Tennessee Volunteers, which, by the way, at the time of this recording, is just 27 days away. Can you believe it? Just 27 days away. Without further ado, let's talk about David Reese, a defensive end entering, I believe, his 8th season of college football. And I think David Reese, I may have already said this on Locked On Syracuse, but it's been a while. I think he's maybe the most underrated pickup that Syracuse football had this offseason. Think about all the pickups that they have done, right? They got 2 quarterbacks, Steve Angeli, Rickie Collins, quarterback battle, huge. Jonte Cook, former 5-star player in 2023. All the offensive line additions that they made, all the departures that they had. But very quietly, Syracuse got themselves a pretty decent pass rusher. Now, he's only going to be here for 1 year, but they got themselves a pretty solid pass rusher in David Reese. And I think he's going to start along this defensive line. And he's got a tough task ahead of him. He's got to replace a guy in Fadil Diggs, who was arguably Syracuse's best defender a year ago. And to prove my point, he's in the NFL and he was drafted in the 7th round by the New Orleans Saints. But David Reese, over the past 2 seasons at Cal, which is a power conference team, has amassed 11 sacks. How many other players on Syracuse's defensive line can say that? 11 sacks over the past 2 seasons in a power conference. The answer is 0. That's it. It is only David Reese. So when you're talking about his experience in college football, combined with the fact that he's had a pretty decent last couple of years over at Cal, he's a pretty safe bet to start along Syracuse's defensive line. There's nobody else really along that defensive line that can match David Reese's resume. Let's get into the linebacker core. I do believe that linebacker is a question for Syracuse this upcoming season. But having said that, I believe we know the top 2 players. It's probably going to be a veteran and Derek McDonald, and it's going to be South Dakota transfer Gary Bryant. Of course, both these linebackers have a lot to prove. Derek McDonald is going to be is going to have to be more of a leader than he has ever had to be before for Syracuse. He does not have Michael Jones or Marlowe Wax next to him. It's on Derek McDonald now. And with Gary Bryant, his partner, I guess, he's an FCS transfer. I'm not burying Gary Bryant. I'm not saying Gary Bryant can't come in and be an all ACC player. I mean, hey, I'm open to it. Maybe he really is that good. Sure. But he's got to prove it. But as of right now, you look at the other linebackers for Syracuse football and who could potentially be competing for a starting job. You got a true freshman, Antoine Delorier. You got another veteran in Anwar Sparrow. Are those guys really going to take a starting job in fall camp away from Derek McDonald, who's got plenty of experience starting games, away from Gary Bryant, who, yes, is an FCS transfer, but seems like as of right now, he's probably their best option to start? I don't think either of them are taking those spots, but maybe you feel differently. Feel free to comment in the comments section below your thoughts on who you think is going to start for Syracuse at linebacker in 2025. At least at the start of the season, I think it's Derek McDonald and Gary Bryant. I believe those two are pretty much safe in their roles. Then you got Duce Chestnut and Devin Grant. They are the leaders of Syracuse's secondary, and you can make an argument they're the two big leaders for Syracuse's defense in general. They were both starters last season. They are very versatile. They can play corner. They can play probably either safety position. They can play down in the box as well. There's no reason to believe that these guys are not going to be at the top of the depth chart come opening day against Tennessee. Now, where are they going to play? Duce is probably going to be one of the two safeties. I don't know if he's going to be the strong safety or the free safety, but he's probably going to be one of them. And then Devin Grant is probably going to be the quote-unquote star, which is the fifth defensive back in Syracuse's defensive system. They run at 4-2-5 under Elijah Robinson, so it's 4 down defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs on the field. Devin Grant is likely going to be that fifth defensive back for Syracuse football. And then I want to talk about a couple of players now where I don't know if they're fully safe, but they're pretty close. Barry Buxton, he is likely going to be a starting safety for Syracuse football, and he actually made 5 starts a year ago for the Orange. I think he's definitely up there. I think he's going to be more of a leader for Syracuse in 2025. But because he did start 5 games last season. But aside from that, he still has a lot to prove. So I could see someone else stepping up and potentially taking his job if he does not perform. But I think it's close to safe that Barry Buxton is going to start. Then you got Demetrius Samuel Jr., a 17-year-old true freshman, consensus 4-star recruit, one of the highest rated Syracuse recruits in a very long time. He projects as the number 1 corner for the Orange. Yeah, a 17-year-old 4-star projects as the number 1 corner. That's pretty impressive for Demetrius Samuel. I don't think I'm kind of moving off what I originally thought, which was that he was basically a lock to be the number 1 corner. I think he's close. But I'm not going to count out Georgia transfer Chris Peel. And I'm not going to count out sophomore Davian Kerr and what Davian Kerr did last season, starting the final 4 games. So as of right now, I think Demetrius Samuel will be the number 1 corner. I think Barry Buxton will be a starting safety. They are pretty close to being safe, in my opinion, in those roles, but it is not a guarantee. But what are your thoughts? I'd love you to share right now in the comments section below who you believe is basically a lock to start for Syracuse on defense. Comment in the comments section below. Coming up, we'll discuss the one player on special teams that's guaranteed to have a big role for the Orange in 2025, but we don't really hope he sees the field. You'll understand in just a second. And also, last thoughts on the roster. So that's coming up next on Locked On Syracuse. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever to get concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you have been dying to see. And live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. That's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you could save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. And tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal? Well, Gametime's zone deals pick the best seats in your section for you. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Let's get into the one player on Syracuse's special teams that appears to be pretty safe to be atop the depth chart come opening day against Tennessee. How about the punter, Jack Stonehouse? He is actually Syracuse's lone representative for the preseason All-ACC team. In fact, the past 2 seasons, he has been an all-conference player representing Syracuse football. Last season for the Orange, we didn't really see Jack Stonehouse a whole lot because the offense was really, really good. But when he was on the field, he performed. Jack Stonehouse did his job for the Orange last season. He actually set the program record for punting average last season at 45.7 yards per punt. So he is one of the better punters to ever come through Syracuse football. Now, I'm certainly not going to complain about Syracuse having one of, if not the best punter in the ACC, because, hey, having a good punter, it can't hurt, right? Punters are actually important when your offense does stall out and you have to flip the field. It's a field position game sometimes, and punters are a big part of it. Downing a ball inside the 20, downing a ball inside the 10, or you're at your own 20-yard line and you need a big booming punt because you don't want the opponent starting near midfield. Punters are important, and having a good punter cannot hurt any team. But having said that about Jack Stonehouse, with all due respect to him, I really hope we don't see him on the field all that much in 2025 because I hope this offense scores on every single possession, right? Now, as far as the rest of the special teams, I think a lot needs to be sorted out. I think there's going to be a lot of competition, and there are a lot of different players who could have a role in special teams. A guy like Malachi James, we saw Yasin Willis in special teams last year. Not sure how much he's going to be a part of it this season. I would not be surprised if a guy like Jonte Cook is playing on special teams. So there's a lot to be sorted out. Or the kicking battle as well. Who is going to be the kicker for Syracuse football? I guess we'll find out in fall camp. As far as last thoughts for Syracuse football roster-wise, we've gone over some of the position battles. We've gone over now some of the players that I believe and maybe you guys believe are safe at the top of the depth chart for opening day against Tennessee. I really like the roster's potential. I really do. I think there are a lot of players that you could say have a pretty high ceiling. The difference between last year and this year's roster, and you can take quarterback out for just a moment, is that last year felt like there was more proven returning production for the Orange, right? We kind of knew what to expect from Arondé Gadsden and Marlo Wax and Justin Barron and LaQuinn Allen a year ago. Those were just some of the few players that returned from 2023 to 2024 that had been an all-conference player before. This team doesn't quite have that, right? Demetrius Samuel Jr., 4-star recruit, but he's an unknown. Jonte Cook, former 5-star recruit in 2023. He's kind of an unknown. Darryl Gill flashed a ton of potential last year. Still kind of an unknown, though, how he's going to do as a number 1 wide receiver. But overall, I do like the roster and the upside that it does have for 2025. And having said all that, it's really going to come down to quarterback play. I'm just being blunt. A lot of it is going to come down to how Syracuse's quarterback is. Is Rickie Collins good? Is Steve Angeli good? Because I think they have the pieces around those guys to be successful this season. To, yes, I know with a tough schedule, but to maybe pull off an upset or two and get to a bowl game. Obviously, that's the goal at minimum, right? Get to a bowl game. It's going to really come down to Syracuse's quarterback play. If they can get at least above average quarterback play, they will be okay with this roster. Comment your thoughts on this year's team in the comment section below, and also your thoughts on this roster compared to last season. I love to see them in the comment section below. Now, as far as what is coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future, we still have 3 more position preview podcasts to go over on this channel. Offensive line, defensive line, and special teams in general, right? We're not going to do a full podcast on who's going to be a kick returner, but if we combine the whole special teams unit into one, we could certainly do it. Tomorrow, we will do one of those position preview podcasts. And as of right now, I'm leaning towards doing the defensive line. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future. And thank you for making us your first listen today. Now, for your second listen, you could check out the Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith. He's got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. And you can be the most informed fan on all the changes to college football. Find the Portal Podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse so this channel can grow and reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And I will see you all again soon.